book lovers, it's Jenny at Julia Baby Jen, and today I'm going to be talking about Frostblood by Elly Blake. Today I'm going to talk about this book, Frostblood by Elly Blake. I really did enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars. This book came out in January and it is the first in a series. This is YA fantasy. Basically, the premise of this is we've got our main character, Ruby, who's a teenager, and she is a fireblood, which means she can create fire, but her kind has been destroyed and eliminated in their land, and there's a huge prejudice against them, so she's hidden her power, and she's never really learned to harness her power, and so she doesn't really know how to control it well. The king finds her and throws her in prison, and then a renegade group of rebels free her, even though they don't really like her kind, but they free her to help them defeat the king and take back their land. So in this world, in this land, Frostbloods are what rule as far as magical beings go, and they create ice and snow and that kind of thing. So basically in this land there's Firebloods and Frostbloods, and in this particular country Firebloods have been kind of gotten rid of basically, and they don't get along. Obviously there's huge prejudices against them. There's a lot of myth and all kinds of things going on, but it's a pretty brutal world. It's pretty cruel. This story wasn't particularly original, but it did hook me from the first page. It moved quickly. It's a quick read. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was good fantasy. It was pretty decent world building. So and things just moved right along as far as the plot went. So even though the actual premise isn't all that original and there wasn't a lot of original things happening in the story, it still completely entertained me and I ended up really liking it. So I read it very quickly. Basically for characters we have Ruby, and then we have the king, who's evil and shows up later in the story, and he's a Frostblood. And then we have the captain of the guard who catches her and is also very evil. He does not have, I don't think he has any magical powers, but he is very brutal. And so he's the one who captured her, and she's tortured in the prison. And then the group that rescues her is actually a group of monks that, and half of them don't want anything to do with her. She's kind of hidden in their thing. But Brother Thistle is the main monk who rescues her, and is in charge of their rebel group. They're going to put her in the castle, and she's supposed to kill the king. And then Arcus is another group in the rebels, and he's actually helping train her as well, but he absolutely hates her. And he is a Frostblood, a very good Frostblood. And so basically Ruby doesn't trust anybody at this point in time when they take her. She only allows them to take her out of the prison because she knows she's going to die there, and so she figures she might be able to escape this group eventually. She does want to kill the king because her mother was killed when she was captured, so she wants to reap her revenge, but really she just wants to run away and get away from there. And she's pretty in a bad place in the beginning of the book, and she everybody hates her, is kicking her down, she's down. She's very much has huge prejudices against her, and it's kind of takes a little while for her to grow into herself and all that. So there is a little bit of a story arc with her that I did like. Arcus' story arc was really good as well. Obviously it's kind of cliche, but they start out that hate relationship where they can't stand each other, and then they sort of start to fall in love. There's not a lot of romance in this. There is some. For the most part, this really is more of a story of survival and revenge and war and battles and brutality. And I really didn't know what was going to happen next. I kind of figured that this was going to happen next and this was going to happen next. And things kept happening that weren't super unpredictable, but I couldn't predict them with certainty either. So there was a lot of like things that didn't surprise me, but then there was some things that did. There was a major twist towards the end that actually I didn't see. I didn't figure it out, and I couldn't believe I didn't because it was really obvious, but after the fact. So the twist was pulled off pretty well, I thought, in it too. And that's probably where I enjoyed it the most. I just really enjoyed Ruby's sarcastic humor with Arcus's defiance, and he was pretty dark and wasn't very, I don't know how to describe it. just the animosity between them, their banter, I really liked that, and it really propelled the novel forward. And then, of course, the story itself was very interesting to find out. We started to find more and more about the mythology and this curse that might be happening, and what really happened to the Frostbloods and the Firebloods, because at one time they did coexist in peace, and so that whole thing there was kind of interesting as well. So anyway, I did enjoy this book quite a bit. Like I said, looking back on it, nothing really stands out exactly why I liked it. I feel like it just was really entertaining and an easy read and fun fantasy. And if you get into that, I think you would like this. Like I said, it's nothing real original, but it's one of the better YA fantasies, like new ones that I've read for a while. It was a very entertaining story. So yeah, I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I think my biggest gripe about it is I wanted more world building. What we got was pretty good, but I feel like even though we discovered more and more as the book went on, for a fantasy, it was a little lacking in the world building, which is something I really love in a fantasy. So even though it was an entertaining read and I enjoyed it quite a bit, it could have used more of that, and then maybe not quite so many cliches. A few more characters maybe would have been nice too. I feel like we were really there was a few characters that kind of showed up in the monks area, but it really was those 3 characters, Brother Hissel, Arcus, and Ruby, interacting through a good portion of the book. And I feel like in a fantasy there should have been more characters. So as I said, it just needed a little more detail on some of that stuff. But other than that, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. So a book to compare it to, I guess it has a lot of the feel of like Red Queen. I don't think it's quite as good as that in my opinion. I think the world building in that was better. But it kind of has that feel, the same kind of feel as Red Queen. Shadow and Bone, it kind of has that feel a little bit, even though they're very different stories. It kind of had that feel to it as well. Those are just a few that come to mind off the top of my head. As far as books that if you read, you might like this as well. So anyway, yep, I give it 4 stars. I recommend it if you like good YA fantasy. It's not real light, but it's not super dark. It's kind of in between there. Like I said, if it gotten a little more detailed in some of the world building, it probably would have pulled it off a little better, but it was still interesting, and I will read the next one in the series because I do want to find out what's going to happen next. So leave me comments below if you've read this or if you recommend any good YA fantasy. And yeah, we can chat about it in the comments. I hope everyone has a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.